Sometimes we carry pain that doesn't belong to us. It lives quietly in our fears, our habits, our reactions. It's like an echo of something that happened long before we were born. Psychologists call this transgenerational trauma, when the wounds of one generation are passed down to the next. And often, without realizing it, we live the emotions our parents once suppressed. There are three main ways trauma travels across generations. The first is behavioral transmission. When a parent has experienced trauma, war, loss, abuse, they often develop heightened sensitivity, fear, or emotional distance. Their children grow up in that atmosphere and unconsciously absorb it. A child of a traumatized mother might sense danger even when none exists. A child of a father shaped by war may learn that emotions equal weakness. Over time, these patterns become internalized, turning anxiety, distrust, and detachment into habits that seem like personality.
Don't let them pass.
But they are echoes of pain that never healed. The second form is social transmission. Entire communities can pass down collective trauma. Think of colonization, slavery, or forced assimilation. Events so powerful that they reshape societies for generations.
The evidence says
In Canada,
otherwise.
for example, Indigenous children were taken from their families and sent to residential schools, forbidden to speak their languages, forced to abandon their culture, and often subjected to abuse. When those children grew up, they struggled to reconnect, facing poverty, addiction, and a loss of identity. Their pain didn't end when the schools closed. It was inherited by their children, and then their children's children. Eventually, it became woven into social behavior, so deep that it's hard to tell where culture ends and trauma begins. The third path is biological transmission through something called epigenetics. Trauma doesn't rewrite DNA, but it can leave chemical tags that influence how genes express themselves, and those changes can be inherited. Scientists studying Holocaust survivors found that both survivors and their children had altered stress hormones and genetic markers linked to anxiety. Even though the children never faced the camps themselves, their bodies still carried traces of fear, as if evolution had prepared them for a world full of danger. Similar findings appear in the descendants of war survivors, famine victims, and those with histories of addiction. Substance abuse, often used to cope with emotional wounds, can itself reinforce these biological shifts, making the next generation more vulnerable to depression and dependency. But the truth is, these three forms rarely act alone. They overlap, shaping one another. Imagine a man returning home from war. His trauma changes how he feels, how he speaks, how he loves. His daughter grows up sensing his anger and silence, her brain adapting to a world that feels unsafe. When she becomes a mother, her son inherits both her emotional patterns and her stress-related genes, carrying forward traces of his grandfather's pain, even though he never met the man himself. 3 generations linked by invisible scars, each one doing their best to survive. So, can this cycle be broken? Yes, but only through awareness and compassion. Healing begins when we face our own history and recognize the burdens we were never meant to carry. Therapies like the Hoffman process help people uncover inherited emotional patterns, to understand not only what happened to them, but what happened before them. When we learn to forgive, to process, and to release, we stop passing those wounds forward. The pain we inherit isn't our fault, but healing it, that might just be our purpose. This is Brain Bosster, where we explore the psychology behind who we are and who we can become. If this story moved you, don't forget to like,
The
share,
Unschoolers
and
Dictionary
subscribe.
is revolutionizing
Because understanding
education.
our past
Stop
is
sleeping
the
through
first
class
step
and start
toward
exploring new
freeing the
ideas
future.
today.